This podcast is brought to you by Enlightening Learners Academic Coaching and Tutoring Services.
In this presentation, we're going to learn how to use the commutative and associative properties to solve for unknowns and to simplify problems. Some guided questions you'll need to know. You'll need to be able to define associative and commutative properties, and you'll need to know how to apply the properties to use mental math. Go ahead and read that on your own. Now, what does it mean? Commutative property, the terms A and B are used to describe how to use it. We have A plus B, and notice that it equals B plus A. What it means is when you add 45 and 5, you get 50, and when you get 5 and 45, you get 50. Associative property essentially means that I can change the order of the numbers, and it doesn't change the outcome. Notice that 2 plus 3 equals 5 and 3 plus 2 equals 5. This does not work when we're dealing with subtraction. 3 minus 2 equals 1, and 2 minus 3 equals a negative 1. So it doesn't work for subtraction, it only works for addition. Now, we've got the commutative property of multiplication, which essentially means that if I multiply numbers together, I can change the order and it's still not going to change the value. It can work with more than two numbers. 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. 2 times 3 is 6. Times 4 is 24. Times 5 is 100. And if we change the order of this, we should still get 100. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 24 times 5 is still 100. Associative property means that I can have numbers together and use grouping symbols to indicate that they need to be done first, and regardless of how I group them, the answer is still going to be the same. I can go ahead and group these together, indicating that I have to do them first. 4 plus 6 is 10. 10 plus 3 is 13, plus 1 is 14. And if I rearrange them and change the grouping, I should still get the same answer. That's 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. Plus 6 equals 14. Associative property multiplication says that I can change the grouping order of multiplication problems and it still won't change the value. 6 times 2 times 3, and if I decide I want to put grouping symbols around this, I get 6 times 6 is 36. And if I group them differently, I should still get the same value. This time I'm going to group these two together. 6 times 2 is 12. Times 3 still gets me 36. So why is it important? When you're doing mental math, sometimes it's easier to regroup these values. So, for example, I'm looking for values that'll be easily to do. So I'm going to do 27 plus 13, and that will get me 40, because 7 and 3 is 10. So I've used those. And then I want to add 22 and 18. That gets me 40. And then finally, I can combine 16 and 24. 6 and 4 is 10. Again, we get 40. When we combine them all together, we get 180. Now, it becomes a little bit more difficult when you're trying to add these without changing the order. Excuse me, this should be 120. Sorry, not 140. So I continue to do this, and doing the mental math, I would get 120 once again. I could multiply 4 times 7 to get 28 and multiply that to get 25. However, I know that 25 times 4 gets me 100, and 100 times 7 gets me 700. Now, that's using the associative property. Excuse me, that's using the commutative property. And if I were going to use associative property, I could rewrite this and group these together first to get 100 times 7 equals 700. So using the commutative property and associative properties are important because it allows you to regroup numbers to make them easier for you to do mentally.